We're back. The Silver and Blue Huddle. Richblkman, expert corner. We're back off of victory this time, this week. Even though it was the Panthers, but what they say, a win is a win, and we would take it however we can get it. It don't really add much to our chances of probably making the playoffs or making a deep run. But hey, a win is a win, and by any means necessary, we would take it. There's some people out there this week that they can't even have victory Monday because their team lost. So I'm just saying. So let us Cowboys have our week. Let us have our joy today. And
Right.
it's just a victorious week. So we're gonna live to tell about it, and we're gonna cap this week because we won and you didn't. And they still kicked off the ESPN Monday night shows with the Dallas Cowboys, baby. So hey, even our record is bad. We may not be making the playoffs, we may not be making the Super Bowl, but we are primetime news come Monday morning at 8 o'clock on ESPN and all across all the networks and radio shows. Nobody talked about your team's performance. Nobody talked about your quarterback having career numbers and your running back doing this or that. They talked about the Dallas Cowboys. So here we are today talking about Dallas Cowboys. Again, Expert, Rich. We played the freaking Carolina Panthers. Expert told you last week that the Cowboys are going to win, and that's exactly what they did. It was kind of ugly at first in the first half or whatever, but the Cowboys pulled it together. They did what they were supposed to do. Defense actually kind of did some things, got some turnovers here and there, and they put Bryce Young in the blender, so he didn't really know what to do. But at the end of the day, it was the Panthers, but I take the W. How about you, Expert?
Yeah, and I think the big thing in this game was you talked about they struggled early in that game. And you look at what the turning point was. Cooper started to throw the ball down the field a little bit. He found CeeDee Lamb a couple times, one of those being a touchdown early in that game. They started getting that offense rolling at that point. Panthers kind of had to back up. They knew CeeDee Lamb was one of those guys. He had another game, 9 catches, 116 yards. But the real MVP of this team is that running back. Rico Dowdle has flipped the switch somewhere. I don't know where he got it. There was a graphic they had like 100 plus games he's played with no 100-yard rushing, and then the last 3 back-to-back 100-yard rushing performances. I mean, that speaks volumes not only for Rico but this offensive line, this patched up offensive line. The injuries on this team have taken a huge toll on this Dallas Cowboys offense. Obviously, you lose your perennial All-Pro quarterback in Dak Prescott. And I still see people on social media talking about, see, I told y'all Cooper was better than Dak. Can we please stop? If you think Cooper Rush is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, please hit your boy Expert up. I have some oceanfront property in the middle of Nebraska. I need to sell you because you're an absolute moron. I love Cooper Rush. He's a good dude. Serviceable backup, came in, threw 3 touchdowns to 3 different wide receivers. And the one to Jalen Brooks where the play is broken and he rolls out to his right and throws just an absolute laser in the back corner of the end zone.
Right.
I wish that was the Cooper Rush we got all the time, but unfortunately those plays are few and far between with him. But he played well, 18 to 29, 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, and spread the ball around. 7 different guys catch a pass from Cooper Rush with Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, and CeeDee Lamb, the only one that catch multiple. But let's talk about that defense. Micah Parsons, 2 more sacks. Odigizua, who's going to be a free agent after this year.
Right.
A piece that I think they really got to figure out how to bring him back to Dallas. You lost Dorrance Armstrong last year, and that's starting to show. Obviously, Sam Williams gets hurt in the preseason, and he's done for the year. Those have really hurt. You cannot lose a guy like Odigizua. You got to find a way to bring him back. Even Jordan Lewis had a sack. The young kid that's kind of stepped in, Maurice Liafu, that stepped in for Overshown, who got hurt last week. Man, he played a really big game, pretty good for him. Still looking for Donovan Wilson to show up. I really don't feel Donovan Wilson is going to be part of this team next year. Unfortunately, I think he's going to be one of those cap casualties where they just don't bring him back.
Right.
Obviously, not having Trayvon Diggs hurt. Then you're down to just Deron Bland and Jordan Lewis, your two really good cover corners. But that front 4, that front 6, whatever the Cowboys brought, really got after Bryce Young. He kind of, you talk about they put him in the blender. He was lost. There were just moments where he didn't know he was in an NFL game. He had just woken up and there's these grown men chasing him.
Right.
He was lost. And you're going to see that from a guy. It's only his second year in the league. Unfortunately, that Panthers team doesn't have a lot of talent around him. You know, he got a couple pieces.
Right.
Legette's still really young. Thielen's really old. And so that offensive line just couldn't hold up for them Cowboys. And it wasn't like Zimmer brought a lot of pressure either.
No.
A lot of it was just front four getting after the quarterback. Micah being Micah Parsons. And I think he needs like 2 sacks and he'll have double digits again for like the 4th year in a row. Which another thing we got to talk about is the Cowboys. They can't do Micah Parsons like they did Dak and CD and wait in camp till the very last minute. They got to get him signed early, be done with it, put that to bed, and allow us to move on and continue this offseason. But I don't want to say a big win from the Cowboys because it's the Panthers. And listen, I tweeted on Sunday, and listen, I have no hatred toward the Philadelphia Eagles, none whatsoever.
Right.
But I want a Philadelphia Eagle fan to please comment on this video, because I know y'all watch. Please comment on the video. How did y'all struggle versus that Panthers team? Please let me know, because a backup quarterback in Cooper Rush just dissected that team. We ran all over them. We did what we wanted to do on defense, except for the blown coverage that they get the 7 points. They were in a box the entire game. I still don't know how they competed versus the Eagles. Maybe the Eagles overlooked them and this Cowboys team didn't. I don't know, but good win for the Cowboys. On to the next week. And Rich, there's still a chance this team makes the playoffs.
Exactly. And I know you saw my Facebook post. There's a few things that the Cowboys got to do. They got to win out. They got to hope that some other teams lose out. And, I'm a betting man. I think that could be possible, that the Cowboys could make it. There's a chance. There's a chance. And that's all that we need in life, is just a chance. And you never know, the opportunity might come up, because there's been years in the past. Let's not sit up here and act like a team having a chance has not made it like to the playoffs because of that one chance. It has happened before across all sports. It's not just the NFL. You talk about NBA, you talk about NASCAR, baseball. You give a team a chance and a few things got to fall their way, and that's say, they holding up the trophy or something like that. That's how we got the freaking Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles, right? Everybody dead this season, and then here goes Nick Foles. They go, he's not going to do anything. Next thing you know, he's in the Super Bowl. The Patriots, Tom Brady. Next thing you know, he holding up a freaking trophy. I think also baseball-wise, you saw the Red Sox do it a few times in baseball, where everybody counted them out. Next thing you know, they holding up a World Series. So it is possible. Now, will it probably happen? Probably not, but there's a chance. And you never know. You never know. Y'all, you need
They
to
got some tough
1%.
games.
Exactly.
They got some tough games.
They do.
They got to win out, though. And so that's the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Commanders. Those are 3 tough games. If they get in the playoffs, it'll be because they earned it.
Right.
It won't be because some crap happened and this team lost to that team and this team strengthened. That won't matter. It will be because the Cowboys went out and won 4 straight games. The Panthers, the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Commanders. And those last 3 are not cupcake games. But we'll see. They got a tough matchup this week.
Definitely got a tough matchup. And just to go back to the Panthers game, Rico Dowdle, your MVP the last couple of weeks, 25 and 149, averaging 6 yards a carry. I feel like he's been averaging 6 or 7 yards carry for the last few games. Yeah. Imagine if they would have just used that approach all year long, where he's averaging 6 or 7 yards a game, and you just continue to feed him every single time. Like, our season could be a little bit different. The pressure off Dak, the pressure off Cooper Rush could be a little bit different, and the results could be a little bit different. And the Cowboys maybe could have had a better record. So I question Mike McCarthy, and like, man, this run game was here this whole time, and you just refuse to utilize it. Like, that is crazy to think about. But the numbers are what they are. I mean, I know we probably ain't been facing like the toughest teams or whatever, but that's just something for him to ponder all year long. And maybe that the run game was there, he should have just utilized it a little bit more as a coach or whatever. But great effort by Rico, great effort by CD as well. It was the Panthers, but hey, a win is a win. I take it. We had some pretty good performances come out of that as well. So as long as the Cowboys keep winning, there is that chance. Everybody saw that movie, Dumb and Dumber. So they saying there's a chance.
There is a possibility. Now, here's the thing. You can't rely on Cooper Rush to throw 40 times and win a football game. I don't think he's that type of quarterback. Right. Now, the great thing is when you got a running back like Rico averaging 6-7 yards a carry, defenses have to respect that. They have to come up and the play action pass all of a sudden becomes deadly at that point. There were so many times in that Panther game where that play action boot action he got had wide open people on that backside coming across the field. And that's all because the defense is having to respect Rico's run ability, because he's getting, and there were a couple times where it's not 6-7 yards. He's getting 12, 14, 16 yards a clip. Right. And teams are getting gashed by this Cowboys run team, which is something that makes this Cowboy offense so much better is when they get the run game going. Now, will that continue? They're going to have some tough competition. The Bucs stopped the run, the Eagles stopped the run, the Commanders stopped the run. So we're going to find out. They got to be dedicated to it. They can't get away from it. But we all know Mike McCarthy. He sees 2 or 3 runs in a drive that aren't doing what he thinks, and all because sudden he becomes pass happy, and he forgets it's not 4, it's 10. And a lot of times the problem is that 10, while I think he can make a lot of the same throws Dak can make, he does not have the same arm strength Dak has. And so he's not pushing the ball with force down the field like we think. He's throwing to a spot. And there's nothing wrong with that in NFL if you're throwing to the right spot. So my big thing is I don't want to see Cooper Rush drop back 40 times against the Bucs or the Eagles or the Commanders. I need to see this run game keep going.
Right. And the only thing with like the Eagles and the freaking Commanders is that those are our last 2 games. So it's very possible that they could be shutting down their starters to protect them from injury and stuff like that. So that's why it could look good for the Cowboys in those last 2 games if that actually happens. But knowing Nick Sirianni, who's our guy, he don't want to take a Cowboy L, so he probably will play Jalen Hurts and the starters in that particular game. But if they didn't, that is something that the Cowboys can probably look forward to, is maybe playing the Eagles backup and probably the Commanders backup as well. I can see that definitely with the Commanders game, considering that's the last game. It's in Washington, I believe. You know, weather may come into a factor there. Maybe some snow, maybe a little cold weather. But I can see maybe Dan Quinn doing that. Especially if I got it already locked up.
I definitely don't see Sirianni doing it. Obviously, you touched on it's the Cowboys. He doesn't like the Cowboys. The Eagles don't like the Cowboys. They're not want to give him that win. I also think you cannot afford to lose a step going into the playoffs. So if I'm a playoff team, I'm still pushing my starters out there, at least for a first half. But then again, if you have a chance to knock the Cowboys out from playoff contention, those teams are going to take that opportunity. Obviously, that won't matter if they don't win versus the Bucs. They lose one more game, they're done.
Right.
Doesn't matter what happens. You cannot lose the rest of the way. So first step first, we got to beat the Buccaneers, find a way to get to Baker Mayfield, find a way to stop Mike Evans, because every time he gets on the field, apparently he just gets to score a touchdown. If the parlay is 1 touchdown for Mike Evans, take the over, because he's always going to get the 1.
Right. And he I think he just came off of injury like last week, and he just came into the game and just scoring touchdowns after touchdowns. I'm like, Mike Evans,
I don't get it.
Like, oh my God, he's like so wide open most of the time. So definitely a tough task for the Cowboys this week. Running game, you got to deal with Villa this week in the middle, and then like I said, on offense, you got to worry about Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans as well. And the Bucs running backs ain't too bad either. They got 2 of them. They got a running back up by committee. They got the white dude, and they also got Bucky as well. So we can't sleep on their run game. I do imagine the Bucs are probably going to utilize the run game a lot, seeing that the Cowboys can't really stop the run. So that would be something that I wouldn't be surprised to see. But Baker Mayfield has been playing great. The Buccaneers as a whole has been playing great all year long. I don't think their record it's a good indication of that, but they are a good football team. Everybody have pretty much casted out the Buccaneers once Tom Brady retired a few years ago, and then they haven't really. Only thing they've been doing since Tom Brady retired has been winning. Like, they ain't made no deep playoff run, but they've been winning. And once they brought in Baker Mayfield, they are still winning. And he's a serviceable quarterback. He's out there making the throws. He's not really losing the game for the Buccaneers. So offensively, he's going to be a juggernaut to deal with. Defensive-wise, the Buccaneers are still pretty good based on their coach, Todd Bowles, as well. He could bring the pressure. He can scheme up some defensive schemes as well that confuse maybe Cooper Rush. So it's going to be a tough game. It ain't going to be easy. It's a Sunday night game. I don't know why the NFL didn't flex out the Cowboys, but we are America's team. We are America's team, and we got Jerry Jones and everybody love to watch us. Okay, even though win or
Yeah.
lose, you guys will be watching the Cowboys Sunday Night Football, and we welcome you because we're America's team. But
Yeah, and it just depends what Buck team shows up. Obviously, their record, your record is what it is at this point, right?
mhm.
You know, they beat the brakes off the Giants, then they struggle versus the Panthers. They beat the Eagles, they lose to the Falcons. They lose to the 49ers, who a lot of people have not lost to the 49ers. So, you know, it just depends on what Buck team shows up. Is it going to be 400, yards passing Baker Mayfield, or is it going to be 220 yards passing Baker Mayfield? But the one thing the Bucks do well is they stop the run. They have held more opponents to under 100 yards rushing than anybody this year, I believe. When I looked at the stats, there were several games. They gave up 11 rushing yards versus the Raiders, 25 last week. Like the Chargers and the Raiders had a combined 36 yards rushing against the Buccaneers in 8 quarters. That if they hold the Cowboys to 25 or 11 yards or 36 or 40 yards rushing, it's going to be a long day for the Dallas Cowboys. So you got to find a way to get this team moving left and right. You talked about Vita Vea. You cannot attack the middle of this field. You've got to get left and right and get on the edge, find a way to get on the edge. And the Cowboys did a really good job of that versus the Panthers, get on the edge. Those two tight ends in Schoonmaker and Ferguson did such a great job setting the edge, getting the Panthers pushed back inside and letting Rico get on that corner. And that's what you got to do. And you got to do that with sweeps to the Kevontae Turpin, to CeeDee Lamb. You got to get outside with this Bucks team. That's where they struggle. If you try and go up the middle, those two big boys inside, they're not letting anything. They got good linebackers as well. And then offensively, you got to control the turnovers. I think the biggest thing for the Cowboys in wins is they don't turn the ball over and they don't have penalties. Against the Panthers, they only had the one turnover, which was Cooper Rush's fault. If he just hands the ball off, it's a big gain. He tried to pull it out. He saw something probably that wasn't there. They fumbled the football. But the penalties are still a big problem for me. They toned them down a little bit in the Panthers game, but you got to control those two things going up against good football teams that are winning right now. And the Bucks are a good football team. So control those two things, penalties, turnovers, and then, of course, run the football. You got a chance to beat the Bucks. I'm never going to go against my Cowboys, so I'm picking them to beat the Buccaneers, even though it's a Sunday night game. The world will be watching. And you know what'll happen if the Cowboys lose. Everybody will love to pile on the Cowboys missing the playoffs, which hasn't happened in a while.
Right, and I totally agree. I think one thing that we might actually see that we haven't really talked about from the Panthers game is probably Brandon Aubrey's 70-yard field goal attempt. I mean, I did see some tweets out there that people said that they did hated it or whatever, but I mean, if you watch Cowboy games, you know Brandon Aubrey has the leg to hit a field goal like that. On that particular instance, he just hit it wrong, but I mean, in Dallas on Sunday night, they may try it again, and he probably will hit it in the dome. He probably could have hit it outside as well, but I think he just got it. He just hit it wrong this particular time, but he's our MVP along with Rico. Hopefully, we don't see any trap plays because Vita Vea is going to eat those up. So Mike McCarthy, I'm telling you right now, please do not run no traps. Don't run no counters because Vita Vea is going to get it. Expert just told you exactly how we should run against the Bucks, and that's left to right stretches, jet sweeps. Well, not the jet sweep that we see from CD every single time he goes into motion. Be creative and think of something else, please. Okay, put somebody else on the field. You know, you just know it's coming, and I don't want to see no Hunter run the ball on 3rd and 5 either. Okay, I don't want to see that either. I don't want to see none of that. But I would probably go with the Cowboys. Cause I can't just pick against the Cowboys. My sister listened to the podcast, and we're in this weekly pool every single week. And I don't even make the choices for the Cowboys game because she knows who I'm going to pick every single week, no matter what. Okay, so she's like, yo, Rich, you got to be unbiased. Let me make the pick. And sometimes she does go with the Cowboys, and sometimes she goes against us. But if I made a pick, we'll lose that pool every single week because I'm going Cowboys all day, every day, and twice on Sundays. You know what I'm saying? I don't really care.
Right.
That's my team. You know, we got to go with them. But yeah, I think the Cowboys will win against the Bucks on Sunday night. They'll continue to make it interesting with the playoff picture or whatever. And you know, I'm here for it because I need the content. I need to make a post. I need to trigger you guys on Facebook every time I make a post about the Cowboys making the playoffs. So please, Cowboys, help me out so I can continue to make that post and make a whole lot more money. Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, you love getting people riled up on the Facebook. when you post about the Cowboys. Like their whole life depend. I know people on Sunday after the Cowboys win, they sitting on their phone just what Rich gonna say now, so I can go on here and telling his Cowboys still suck.
Exactly. They
Listen,
do.
man, you took time out of your day to get on his Facebook post and gripe about the Cowboys. You really a Cowboy fan.
Right.
I promise you this. You'll never see me post about on Eagles post about how trash the Eagles are, the Commanders of the Giants. I ain't got time for all that, but y'all be on the Cowboys all the time talking about the Cowboys not America's team. Y'all not them boys. Y'all ain't won a Super Bowl in X amount of time. Okay, great. Great. Listen, there are only 3 teams in the NFL that got 6 Super Bowls, and only a handful that got 5.
Right.
If your team ain't got 5 of them, it don't matter when. It don't matter when those Super Bowls came, because y'all done had 75 years just like us, just about, and all y'all got is 1 or 2 or 3. I'm sorry. That's not my fault.
Right. And it took the Eagles 30 years to get one.
I mean, the Eagles, they've been struggling to get one. Now, we'll transition right now to talk about the Eagles in this playoff picture. The Eagles clinch a playoff spot. They haven't clinched the division yet because the Commanders are still close enough that they can go catch them. The Commanders would have to win out. The Eagles would have to lose out to go get them. But the Eagles are playing good football right now. They had a little turmoil last week with A.J. Brown and Donovan McNabb. Jalen Hurts.
Disrespect Donovan McNabb like that. Come on, man.
Listen, Donovan McNabb went through the same thing with Terrell Owens. Listen, it's not a new thing. Listen, if you are surprised that there are wide receivers in the NFL upset because they're not getting the football, there was a wide receiver that wrote a book that said, "Give me the damn ball." Like, listen to me. There's a wide receiver on every football team across the nation, high school, college, and NFL. There's a wide receiver on every single team that thinks they don't get the football enough. It's just a part of football. Now, is it elevated when it's the NFL? Sure. Is it more elevated when it's a guy like A.J. Brown? CeeDee Lamb does the same thing with Dak Prescott. He thinks he's always open. Jamar Chase last week wore a shirt in warmups that said 7-Eleven, I'm always open. Like, come on, man. Like, that's just a part of NFL. We get so worked up over some of the most nonsense stuff. Right. And, I know those guys in that locker room, as much as I can't stand that Philadelphia team, I know those guys in the locker room got to be sick and tired of hearing that nonsense. Even Jalen Hurts came to the press conference like, is that what y'all wanted to see? He kind of forced the ball to A.J. Brown a little bit in that game, which is fine because, listen, that team is very, very good. They're not going to win off of Jalen Hurts' arm. I'm sorry, they're not. They're going to win off of that big, huge back in that backfield in Saquon Barkley. And as long as Saquon Barkley is playing like he's playing, this Philadelphia Eagle team got a chance to make a lot of noise. Now, Rich, there's some good teams in NFL because both the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions have also clinched playoff berths in the NFC. And except for that game versus the Bills, I thought the Lions were the real deal. And I still think they're the cream of the crop. I think they're 1A or 1B, and Philadelphia is 1A, 1B, whatever. I think those are the 2 best teams in NFC. But, kind of like what we were talking in the pregame show, I think it's going to come down to who's the most healthy, right? And which team is the most healthy. And right now, the Lions kind of going through it right now with some injuries.
Yeah, the Lions are definitely getting injured at the wrong time. Like towards the end of the season or whatever. That's not when you want to get injury prone a little bit. They defense is like crazy injured. And then obviously they have David Montgomery, who's been one of the headed monsters of the running game with Gibbs. Yeah. So that can actually hurt them a lot because we don't know if Gibbs can handle a full value, the full game value of running the ball like that. They always split time. They always split series or whatever between him and Montgomery. So Montgomery could be a tough loss for the Detroit Lions, but they still got Gibbs. So they're not really too kind of crazy injured other than the defense. But that is going to put a lot more pressure on Jared Goff. And we all know what happens when we put a lot of pressure on Jared Goff. They don't become a good football team offensively.
That's
so
right.
The
Detroit they become Lions, origami.
Yeah, they could be in trouble as well. So
they just fold.
Yeah, they could be in trouble. And speaking about the wide receiver controversy, I mean, you can't forget about Terrell Owens and Tony Romo. You know, Terrell Owens came out in the media and said, "Hey, he's favoring Jason Witten more than me. Him and Jason Witten are scheming up things in the hotel bedroom to take me out of the game." You know what I'm saying? So yeah, wide receiver controversy and quarterback controversy has always been a thing. It's on pretty much every single team, so you can't
Yeah.
really be too
Yeah.
surprised when that is happening. So AJ Brown, I mean, I really hope that they continue to have controversy and maybe they just start fighting each other and it costs them a few more games. You know what I'm saying? So my Cowboys can make the playoffs because
That's
there's that
right. That's right.
chance. There's that 1% chance. Okay, so continue to
It's
fight
more like
amongst yourselves.
0.6, more like
Yeah,
0.6%, but
yeah,
hey, we'll take it. Yeah. So, and then, in the NFC, in the AFC, obviously you got the big dogs with the Bills, the
yep,
Chiefs, the Ravens, the Steelers are still up there. So,
yep.
it's going to be interesting kind of see. It's going to be weird, Rich, when I look up and the playoff bracket comes out and I don't see the Dallas Cowboys on there, it's going to be really hard for me to put my time and effort into watching playoff football as much as playoff football is so big. It's a whole different animal than the regular season. I just can't get excited for it when the Cowboys are not a part of it. So we'll see. I'm just going to cherish these last 3 weeks of the season
Mhm.
in hopes that we can develop some talent on this Cowboy football team. See what we got.
Right.
Obviously, if Rico Dowdle, you're gonna have to try and re-sign him. Micah Parsons is going to be a free agent. Oh, Diggy Zoo is a free agent. There's Donovan Wilson. There's a lot of guys on this team. They're going to have to start talking. And Jerry Jones, son, Stephen Jones actually came out this week and said Micah Parsons is still the number one focus for us in the offseason. My only ask is don't wait till the last minute with him like you did with CD and Dak. Get him out the way early and let's focus on how do we create some cap space with restructuring contracts to go after some of these big free agents. And then if Rico is continuing to play like he's playing,
Hmm.
you got to bring him back. Now, I don't know if you bring him back on that number one salary. Obviously, I think running back is still something you have to address in the draft with the Cowboys, but there's a lot of questions. And then, of course, Jerry comes out and says Mike Zimmer and McCarthy are tied together. So if one goes, they both go. If one stays, they both stay.
They
I
they
think
they
Jerry is.
both gotta go.
I think Jerry is writing on the wall that listen. When I let Mike McCarthy go, I'm sorry, Zimmer, you got to go with him.
Right.
I just don't. I don't think there's any way they bring Mike McCarthy back, and no fault. Not all the fault on Mike McCarthy, right? Jerry Jones showed up at Mike McCarthy's house with a brown paper bag and said, I want you to make me a Michelin star meal. And he gave him the bag. And inside the bag was a half-eaten Lunchable. He had an apricot and he had Taco Bell hot sauce. And that was it. And he said, Mike McCarthy, make me a 5-star Michelin star meal. And Mike McCarthy was like, okay, I'm going to do my best.
Right.
Unfortunately, you got to find a way to give the guy pieces to compete. And we talked about this way back way back when training camp was ending. We were talking in the first couple of weeks of the Silver and Blue Huddle is that Jerry Jones actually hurt his team more than he helped them by signing Dak and CD. Not the amount that he signed him, but the timing of it completely ruined this football team from the jump, right? And Jerry came out and kind of beat on his chest about no other GM could do what I do. You're right. Go back and look at what the other teams are doing. That they found a way to move money around to pay their superstars early so they could go after free agents. And that, Jerry did it the exact opposite and then said, look what I did. He actually hurt Mike McCarthy more than he helped him. And unfortunately, I think it's going to cost McCarthy his job.
Right. And there also was breaking news this week that in the news that where they said Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones mentioned that this offseason could be very similar to the prior offseason to where the Cowboys don't spend as much money and they kind of like try to save money. And
Yeah.
we may have the same result that we had this season going into next season, which was kind of disheartening a little bit. But we had to find a way to sign Micah Parsons. We had to do that on day one of the eligibility of him to be signed. We cannot be
Yeah.
going into like draft or like training camp. We were like, oh well, now we got to sign Michael Parsons. No, we should have did that months ago. So I was
Correct.
kind of mad to hear them say that, hey, we're going to have a very similar type off season. And you know why you have a similar type off season, guys? Is because you guys did a very poor job at your jobs, right? So normally people get
100%.
fired for those type of things, right? But because you guys are the owners or whatever, you guys get to do what you want. But as a fan, you guys are letting us down. Like, you're doing nothing to improve the team. You know you're not doing nothing to improve your team, and you guys are asking us to accept being mediocre yet another season. Like, that's
Yep.
terrible. If this season didn't like shine a light on you, say, hey, things need to change like ASAP, then I don't know what is. Like, that just lets you know that priority. I mean, winning is not a priority for Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones, and it doesn't really have to be because of the money that they're making every time the Cowboys lose. They're still in the media, they're still on TV, they're still hosting primetime games. So why would you want to put a good product out there? The Cowboys won 5, 6 games this year, and they on primetime on a Sunday night. What more could Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones want? Okay, they're
I
gonna
mean,
make boatloads of money.
the Forbes lift came out. He's still the most financial top dog when it comes to sports franchises.
Right.
I think winning being the most important thing was long gone. Once Jerry Jones realized, now when he first bought the Cowboys, it was about winning, but then when he realized, wait a minute, I don't even have to win,
Right.
and I get to be the most successful owner in the league.
Yep.
Winning is secondary. Oh, okay. Let me do all this other things to make sure I'm still at the top of the list. If we win in spite of that, great. That's just the added bonus. Unfortunately, he's alienating his entire fan base.
Yeah, pretty much.
And attendance is actually down at Texas at AT&T Stadium this year for home games, which a place they've struggled mightily playing football. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting last 3 weeks, and then obviously the off season. I feel like Stephen Jones is trying to just maybe temper the Cowboys fan base expectations by saying, hey, it's going to be kind of like last year. So that way, if they do anything big, Cowboy fans will be like, oh my gosh, we're back. Look what we did this offseason.
Right.
And I hope that's it. I hope all in means we're going to downplay it and we're really not going to do anything. But then we're actually going to bring in 10 different free agents to bolster this team. And then find a way to go get you a young up and coming coach to get this team moving. We need the Dan Campbell type to come in here and bite some kneecaps and break a couple ribs. That's the type of guy I need in the locker room. Hopefully we can find that guy.
I agree. And just wrapping it up, the Cowboys got 3 more games, 3 more weeks of football. And on that 4th week, I fully expect the Cowboys to let Mike McCarthy go, let Mike Zimmer go out and hire a new coach at some point. We can't even talk about Bill Belichick no more because he's off the board. So now we definitely might go in the direction of a young coach for once, maybe the dude from Detroit or whatever. But no more Bill Belichick talk. I don't know who else is out there. I know they was talking about the Vikings DC, who used to be the coach of the Miami Dolphins. I forgot his name, but 4 weeks from now, we should be having a whole new coaching search going on at the time. And
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy, not Mike McCarthy, but hopefully Micah Parsons is maybe having negotiations with his contract and getting that signed, because we got to get that done within the first month of the off season. Like you've been mentioning all today and all year long, we cannot afford to wait, because in the grand scheme of things, the Cowboys could have saved a whole lot of cap space and been able to sign their running back like Derrick Henry if they would have did exactly what you said and got that Prescott paid early and CD early.
Yep.
Because it's crazy that a report came out immediately after that and said, hey, if the Cowboys did this earlier, they would have saved like 30-something million in cap space. They would have been able to do get Derrick Henry. How come Jerry Jones didn't know that? I'm pretty sure they probably did. They had to know that. They had to know that. Come on.
I think my thing is that Jerry Jones thinks he's, a master negotiator, and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott got exactly what they asked for.
Right.
It wasn't like the Cowboys saved a ton of money. Dak and CeeDee didn't give a hometown discount. None of that stuff. They got exactly what they wanted, and it hurt the Dallas Cowboys. Not only did it hurt the Dallas Cowboys in free agency, but it hurt them on the field because Dak and CeeDee are in no kind of rhythm to start the year, regardless that these guys have played together. That rhythm in the OTAs and mini camp and then in training camp and preseason games, all that matters getting ready for the season. And then when the season started, they expected to just flip a switch, and that's not what the NFL is. And so that really hurt them too. So hopefully the Cowboys learn their lesson. Probably not. Jerry Jones going Jerry Jones. That's just how he is.
Right.
But hopefully they figure something out. We need a better offseason, a better year next year. I have been through the 5-11s, 5-11s, 8-8s. I'm tired of those years.
Right.
I don't want to see those ever again. I don't know how some of these teams have fans still. Like, how you a Titans fan? How are you a Panther fan? A Giants fan? Like, these teams have been mediocre for so long. I couldn't imagine doing this year after year to Jets. I just can't imagine like sitting here in November and December and going, well, what are we doing in the offseason? You know, we've had so many years at 12-5 where we're like, all right, is this the year we win the Super Bowl? And you got teams already at the end of November talking about setting their draft boards up. I can't do this. I need a winning football team.
Exactly. And it's going to be kind of strange not to see the Cowboys in the playoff bracket this year. I don't know what I'm going to do when I actually do see it. I may break down. I may cry. I may roll over. It might just push me over the edge. I don't know. But we'll cross that road when we get there, because as I've been saying all podcasts, there is that chance. There is that one chance that the Cowboys could make it. And I got to hold faith. You know, the saying is you just got to have mustard seed faith. And that's all. That's what I got. I got faith over mustard seed that the Cowboys can make it. So that's what we're doing. Make sure you guys follow us on all our social medias, man. Richblkman, Expert Corner. Make sure you also catch the Silver and Blue Huddle on all your streaming platforms, whether you watch it on Spotify, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Music. It is out there. I've taken the commitment to go out there and upload it every single week, and I stay true to that every single week so far. So 2025 is coming up. We're going to get together and try to take this podcast to a whole new level in 2025. Maybe have some players or whatever. I have to hop in some DMs around there, but just make sure you follow and support. We enjoy doing this. Shout out to my man Expert. Shout out to my man So Amazing as well. We love to sit up here and talk about the Cowboys. Whether you guys watch or not, the podcast is coming. It's going to get dropped either way, because this is something that we just enjoy doing. So We've been doing it for about 2 seasons now. So we've been pretty consistent. So I'm very proud of my guys for sticking with me, coming up here every single week and recording a podcast. But I'm just a man who push buttons behind here. They're the ones that keep it and carry it every single week. So just want to take the time out and show my appreciation for my guys. So Amazing, Expert Corner, for continuing to come up here every single week and talk about the Cowboys. No matter how much I cap, they keep me in line a little bit.
I mean, obviously, this is one of my favorite things I do every single week. Anytime I can get with Cowboy fans and we can chop it up, it's even better when it's my guy Rich and So Amazing, 2 guys that we've been rocking together for a long time. So I can't wait. We'll continue this. Hopefully one day we'll get on this podcast to talk about the Cowboys Super Bowl win. That will be the day. I'm gonna go nuts.
That episode right there, it's gonna be real ignorant. Real ignorant, okay? The day the Cowboys win Super Bowl and we had to come up here and talk about it.
My social media is done as soon as they win the Super Bowl. Like, as soon as the clock hits 0, you guys will be like, someone check on Expert, please. He has gone off the deep end. Listen, I have kept receipts. I will be delivering RKOs and knockouts to all these people. Trust me.
That's going to be a sight to see, and I think it's going to happen a lot sooner rather than later. I think the Cowboys, and I always say this, the Cowboys will probably win the Super Bowl well before your team win the Super Bowl, and I'm talking to a lot of fan bases out there, okay? I know even the ones that are having a lot of success right now when the Cowboys are down, you Eagle fans, you Viking fans, you Lion fans, I still believe that the Dallas Cowboys will probably win another Super Bowl before your team does, okay? I truly believe that. So that's the Silver and Blue Huddle, man. We'll talk to you guys next week. The Buccaneers, Esper got him. I got him. We'll see how everything play out. But remember, there is still that chance that the Dallas Cowboys can make the playoffs, and you do not want to see that, because I'm going to get real ignorant on y'all when the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs. Silver and Blue, we are.